They laughed when she stood up. Not loudly, no, that would have been too honest. They smiled. They exchanged looks. They whispered behind folders and designer handbags. Because the woman asking about her son's future was still wearing a janitor's uniform. Faded blue, sleeves rolled up, name tag crooked, hands smelling faintly of disinfectant. And in that room full of educated voices and polished parents. She was already invisible. Maria Thompson arrived late to parent-teacher night. Not because she didn't care. But because she had just finished scrubbing vomit off a kindergarten bathroom floor at the very same school. She hadn't gone home to change. The bus was late. Her son needed dinner. And she had promised him, no matter what, she would be there. So she sat in the back. While other parents wore blazers and perfumes that whispered success. Maria folded her rough hands in her lap and waited her turn. Her son's name was Ethan Thompson. Quiet. Curious. Always reading. The kind of child who raised his hand halfway, afraid of taking up space. When the teacher called, "Next parent," Maria stood. That's when the room shifted. A woman near the front glanced at Maria's uniform and leaned toward her friend. A man coughed, hiding a laugh. Even the teacher paused, just a second too long. "Yes," the teacher said, voice polite but distant. "What can I help you with, ma'am?" Maria cleared her throat. "I wanted to ask about my son's future," she said softly. "He loves science. He talks about college. I just want to know what I can do, to help him get there." Silence. Then the guidance counselor smiled, tight, practiced. "Well," she said, eyes flicking down to the uniform. "College isn't for everyone. Some children do better with realistic paths." Another parent nodded. "Trade work is honorable," someone added. "Like custodial services." Laughter, gentle, cruel laughter. Maria felt it then. That familiar burn behind the eyes. The same feeling she'd swallowed her whole life. But she didn't cry. She just nodded. "Thank you for your time," she said. And sat back down. Across the room, Ethan watched. And something in him folded inward. That night, Maria sat at her kitchen table long after Ethan fell asleep. Her uniform lay folded beside her. Her hands trembled. Not from shame. But from anger. Because they hadn't asked about Ethan's grades. They hadn't mentioned his test scores, top of his class. They hadn't talked about his essays, his curiosity, his hunger to learn. They saw the uniform. And decided his future. Maria opened her laptop. She reread emails she hadn't looked at in years. Old credentials. Degrees. Policy drafts. Recommendations. She remembered the choice she'd made a decade earlier. To step back from leadership when Ethan's father died. To take night shifts. To clean floors while raising a child alone. Not because she lacked education. But because she chose survival. And now? Now it was time to choose justice. Part 3, the next morning. The next morning, the school buzzed. Teachers whispered. Administrators straightened their jackets. Because a district official was visiting. A black SUV pulled up. The principal rushed outside. And then Maria stepped out. No uniform. She wore a charcoal suit. Simple. Sharp. Her hair pulled back with quiet authority. She walked past stunned teachers. Past the same parents who had laughed the night before. Into the auditorium. The principal cleared his throat nervously. "Everyone, please welcome Dr. Maria Thompson, Director of Education Equity for the district." The room froze. The guidance counselor's face drained of color. The teacher's smile collapsed. Maria stepped to the microphone. She looked around. And then she spoke. Last night, she said calmly. I attended parent-teacher night here. I asked about my son's future. Her eyes locked onto the counselor. And I was reminded how easily we confuse a parent's job with a child's worth. You could hear breathing. Nothing else. I cleaned your floors, she continued. But I also wrote district policy. I scrubbed bathrooms. And I hold a doctorate in education leadership. Gasps. My uniform did not define me, she said. And it will not define my son. For the next hour, Maria spoke. About bias that hides behind smiles. About low expectations dressed as realism. About how many brilliant children are quietly pushed aside. Not because of ability, but because of assumptions. She showed data. Real stories. Names. Faces. Patterns. Some teachers cried. Some parents looked at the floor. And some finally understood. Maria ended with one final sentence. If you want to know a child's future, she said, don't look at their parents' uniform. Look at how fiercely someone loves them. That afternoon, Ethan came home quiet. Maria knelt in front of him. They were wrong, she said gently. About you. About me. Ethan hesitated. Mom, were you embarrassed? She shook her head. Never, she said. I was powerful. They just couldn't see it yet. Years later, Ethan would stand on a graduation stage. First in his class. A scholarship student. A scientist. And every time he spoke about his success, he mentioned one thing first. My mother wore a janitor's uniform. And taught me what dignity really looks like. Some people clean floors. Some clean systems. And sometimes, the quietest parent in the room is the most powerful one there.